Hi, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Friday, National Yoga Month. And this evening, I'm going to be looking at lifestyle prescriptions yoga, and with special focus on the lumbar spine. So I'm going to do. There's going to be quite a lot of talking. But while I'm talking, I'm hoping that with some guidance, we're going to get into the position first of all. What I'm saying, you're going to start getting an experience of in your body. And so the focus today is on the back, and I'm going to talk all about that when you're actually in position. And then I'm going to explain why I'm getting you into the position that I'm getting you into when you're already in it, if that makes sense, because I could spend an awful lot of time just talking and explaining all of that in advance, and you'll just get bored. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go into the position first of all. And so now I use the butterfly for this position, and I'm guessing that most of you who are watching today don't have a butterfly. So that's fine. You can use a towel. So I have one here, and then I've rolled it up. You don't want it too much wider than this one here, okay? So I'm going to roll this one up so that I make it ready. If you don't have a butterfly and you don't have a towel, you can use two regular rectangular yoga blocks. They're not going to be the best, but you will get a sense of what it is we're trying to achieve. And if you find that whatever props you are using, once you're in that position, actually it's just not that comfortable, then just push them all out to one side. It is important, it's a key part of this, where we're coming into a modified Shavasana. We call Shavasana, it's corpse pose, that's what it translates as. So in order for us to get into a really good Shavasana, we need to be able to absolutely let go. And I've never known anyone use quite as many props as me when it comes to getting into this pose, but it is actually really tricky. Most people find it really challenging. You know, if I get you all to lie down now, you might have had a really busy week and you think, oh, I can't wait to lie down. You lie down, and when you actually track through the body, you find that you're not actually that relaxed. And so what we're doing here is we're getting you really relaxed, but we're doing something very particular with the spine. So here's my towel now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make like a U shape out of that. So what we are going to be working on here is the sacrum, which is the bone at the very base of the spine. So in order to find it, if you put your hands on top of your hips, and then you let your thumbs meet in the midline at the back, keep your thumbs there and turn your hands, then you will pretty much be describing your sacrum here, the triangular bone at the base of the spine here. And what you're going to be using is a prop. So this is where, as I say, where I use the butterfly like this to offload the sacrum. When we lie down on our back, we tend to have all of our weight on the sacrum, a good portion of it. And what I'm showing you tonight, I won't bore you with the whole story, but effectively I fractured my sacrum. And it left me with a really big knobble of bone so that I can't lie flat on the floor. And what happened was I'd already designed the butterfly as a seat, and I put it underneath because I figured, wait a minute, my sacrum is like this shape. And if I put this like this, it will offload that little knobble of bone, and how would that feel? Well, there's been a whole journey since doing that, because I realized that my spine realigned, and I realized all sorts of things about low back pain that I had, that was a very new way of thinking from 30 years of being a physio. So there's been a real journey around it. And what we're trying to do today is we're trying to recreate it. And as I say, when we get into the position, I'll talk about why that's so important. So if you were going to use the towel here, what you would be wanting to do is have it in that kind of a position there. If you were going to use two regular rectangular yoga blocks, I don't have any blocks with me, but I have two sheets of paper here. And so what you're going to be doing is you're going to put your rectangular blocks like that. Can you see that by sliding them together like that, you make the shape down here? And if you imagine that as a triangle, a three-sided triangle rather than a square, that's where you're going to be placing your sacrum. Now, the edges of the rectangular block aren't necessarily going to be that comfortable. So if you put those in position like that, what you can do is you can put a towel on them to just try and smooth out those edges a little bit. The main thing is what we're looking for is for the sacrum to be in this triangle here and offloaded. So I'll go through that one again. If you're lying down like that, your sacrum is going to be in here. So in order to come into the lying position, get you to come through this with me now. If you lie down with your knees bent up and your feet flat on the floor. And then once you've got into position there, if you lift up your bottom and just make sure that the buttock flesh can reorganize itself. And this is the time when, if you slide your hands underneath your buttocks there, but don't bring them right close into the middle. So this is our starting point of starting to feel where is your sacrum. So the back of my hands now is just putting into the soft fleshy part of my bottom there. And even that in itself, you probably get a sense that there is less pressure on the sacrum. This is what you're going to be setting up with your props. Now, the reason why I don't use the hands in this position for a long time is because in order for you to come onto the back of the hands there, you've internally rotated the whole of the arm, and this actually brings the shoulders into a sort of a round-shouldered position. And if you're anything like me and you've been either driving or sitting at a desk today, we actually want to encourage the opposite position there of the shoulders. So coming into the Shavasana position, it's really nice to let your fingers point up towards the ceiling there with the elbows bent at 90 degrees. And you do a couple of circles with the hands like this, and let those circles get bigger and bigger. And then let the hands come palm uppermost onto the floor. And by drawing those big circles, hopefully what you will have found is that rotation that's encouraged with the upper arm will help you to feel really lovely and wide across the whole of the collarbones there. And then you want to just let your gaze look down to probably somewhere about 6 inches above your knees. And as you look down like this, this helps to lengthen through the back of the neck. Now, if you're finding that when your eyes are in the neutral position now, so if you want to just close your eyes and imagine that your eyes are absolutely in the center of their sockets, and then open your eyes again. If you find that you're actually looking up towards the ceiling like that, and you're maybe even looking behind you, then you absolutely need a little support underneath your head. And there are people who will always need, because of the shape of their body, they will always need something underneath their head there, so that the eyes, when they're resting in their neutral position, they're actually looking in about that direction there, as if there was a clock on the wall opposite. So I'm just going to give you a moment to get any props that you need there in order to put something underneath your head. So this is where a small pillow works, or a folded up towel. And then you get that into position there. And then you're going to have with you the props that you're going to put underneath your pelvis. And then you may need a cushion or two for underneath your feet as well. So when you've got all those props in place, if you come back into this position where you're lying on the floor with your feet flat and your knees bent up, your palms uppermost on the floor, the back of the neck long, and then walk the feet apart a little and let the knees fall into the middle so that they're resting on each other. And then again, just pick up the pelvis here and let the buttock flesh fall away. And then gently lower your bottom back down again. So because the knees have fallen into the midline, what's happening there is the hips are internally rotating. And this is actually helping to widen out the pelvic bones that you're lying on. But because we did that when you weren't actually lying on it, then obviously a little bit of movement can happen there. And then what we're looking for here is you're going to straighten the legs away one by one. And then just let the legs fall into the natural rotation. And if you're thinking, well, you're not really quite sure where that is and you're feeling a little bit tense, what you can do is a little windscreen wiper action of the feet there. So I don't know whether you can see, but that's it. Just this scooping motion here where you're taking the feet, scooping them down and out and then back up, and then pointing the toes away, scooping them away, and then coming into the middle. This windscreen wiper action is a really nice way of getting rid of tension in the legs. And then you can let them just find their way, relax that motion there and let them find their way. So this is a regular Shavasana here without any props. And I'm just going to invite you to spend a few minutes there before we bring the props in. And you notice where's in touch with the floor, where you feel most of your weight. Compare the left side of your body to the right side of your body. And just generally, if I was to give you a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is you feel absolutely 100% relaxed, completely flat on the floor, there's no sense of any effort, and 10 would be quite a lot of holding, almost as if you were contracting all of your muscles through the whole body. So on that scale of 0 to 10, give yourself some idea of how much you feel relaxed as you're lying in your Shavasana. Notice what thoughts are passing across your mind, whether you're not having any thoughts, you're spacing out, or if you're thinking about something. And become aware of your breathing. Just noticing where you feel the breath. So we're going to bring in the props now. And so for me, I'm going to demonstrate you, with both butterfly first and then with the towel. So if you bend your knees up, in fact, because let's use a towel. Let the knees fall into the middle again. And then you can pass the towel underneath you. And then I'm lifting my bottom up there. And so when I'm just doing the little wiggle there, I'm just checking in. So my sacrum is not on the floor now, okay? And this is what you're looking for as well. And then I'm going to straighten my legs away one by one. And see how that feels for you. Now, if you have any sense when you have got something underneath the pelvis in this way, there's a little bit more of a lift when I use the butterfly. But either way, when you have something underneath the pelvis in this way, you want to be making sure that your pelvis is in neutral. So this means you do not want to have any sense that your pelvis is being lifted off in this way and that your back is being dragged into an overarch. In the same way, you don't want to get a sense that you are falling off and that your back is actually hammocking there. Now, this will happen for two reasons. Either because you've got the prop in the wrong place, in which case you can take it down. And if you notice as I go down, the back is hammocking more. And then the higher up the prop comes, the more you're going into an arch there. So what you want to make sure is that the prop is in exactly the right spot so that the pelvis feels as if it's in neutral. If you are convinced that the pelvis is in the right spot, but you still feel a little bit as if you were being dragged into an arch there, then this means that somewhere along the whole of the continuum of the tissue deep in the body, that you're a little bit short. So this is when what you'll want to do is put something underneath either the knees or underneath the ankles so that effectively you're bringing the ankles up towards the same height as the hips. So you can use something under the knees there. You can use something, they say, under the ankles. You could use, I've got a little seating thing here. You can use something underneath the middle part of the back of the leg there. So whatever it is that you need. So I'm going to come up into sitting now while you stay there and you get yourself really comfortable. And just before we go into working more with internally, I'll just get you to have a quick check that you're happy with the position of your head, that your eyes, if they're resting in the center of your sockets there, you get a sense that they are looking towards the wall somewhere opposite you, and certainly that you've got length through the back of the neck. And once again, if you haven't already, if you work with the gentle scooping motion of the hands there, so that you rest the palms uppermost, and you get a sense of width across the collarbones. And then letting your awareness come into your body. And as I say, if you find that the props aren't working for you today, then don't worry too much. Just put them to one side and get yourself comfortable in a regular Shavasana, because what I'm going to be talking about now and the exercises that we're going to be doing, you can still do anyway in a regular Shavasana. So the reason why I've brought this position into the work that I do, the yoga that I teach, and in particular, the lifestyle prescriptions yoga, is because my theory is that we are all artificially holding our posture in some way. And so what I'm going to do is just lay that out there and try not to think about that too much. But if you can just take that as a little bit of a given, and then as we work through the exercises, maybe some things will start to reveal themselves to you. So if we are all artificially holding our posture in some way, then what we need to do is let go of those holding, in order for us to be able to see what we're really left with. So when we talk about the mind, brain anatomy of the back, it's part of the musculoskeletal system. And so the bones are about that stability. They give us that structure to our body, the strength. The connective tissue is what holds it all together. And the emotion there is the sense of holding it all together. And the muscles are more about the movement. And while that makes sense, yes, muscles move for us, but if we get a sense of, are we actually moving? Are we moving? Are we choosing to move, or are we able to move in the direction that we want to go? The low back in lifestyle prescriptions represents our key self-worth, our core values. It's the very essence of who we are and what we're doing here. And if there's any conflict around those issues in any way, they will show up in the low back area. That's just one side of a low back problem. So we also have posture. Are we sitting well? Are we using our body well? When we sit at our desk, when we drive the car, when we cook dinner, when we bathe the children, when we relax watching television, when we stand in the queue at the bank. So every single one of our activities, how are we using our spine? And as you continue to lie there, and we're talking about your spine and your back and the activities that you're doing, all you are doing is really just seeing if anything resonates with you. And it's those things that I'm saying that you kind of think, oh, yeah, okay, it's jarring with you somewhere. Those are the little pieces of the puzzle, if you like, that you're going to start putting together. So there's the emotional component of our back. There's the postural component of our back. And there's the movement component. So the body tends to move through the path of greatest ease. So if you imagine that I have a ruler in my hands now, and what I do is I've got one end of the ruler in either hand, and then what I start to do is bring the hands together, and I'm just bending and straightening this ruler, and each and every time that bend and straightening is happening at the same point along the length of that ruler. It's very easy to imagine that one movement too many and that ruler is going to snap. So when we move, if we are always moving from the same place in our spine, every time we bend down, every time we do any activity, if we are only moving by habit, then it's easy to see how some joints get overworn, overused in our body and overworn, and others become stiff and underused. Working with movement in the way that we do in yoga postures, it's a lovely opportunity for us to let us find out where we are moving and also learn more about our posture. And then slowly but surely, the more that you can start to really feel into your body, you can start to get a sense of what that part of your body might be saying to you, especially when we're able to give you some insight from the mind-brain anatomy. If you ask most people, well, how does your back feel today? If they don't have any actual back pain, they'll kind of shrug their shoulders and look at you and think, well, what do you mean, how does my back feel? Because they don't have any sense of it. And that's true for, most parts of our body. If we don't have pain, we don't tend to give it a second thought. It's only when we really start to awaken our perception that we can start to actually look at the more subtle clues that we're getting from our body every day. And this lying down position, when we first lie down, and because, if you're not used to doing yoga, you just lie down, you just say, well, yeah, I'm lying down. But the more you start to get into those, that greater awareness, you say, well, actually, yeah, I'm really noticing one leg is really not relaxing in quite the same way as the other one. What is that about? And how is your back feeling? So if you're comfortable with your props and you stay in the position that you're in now, what we're going to do is we're going to do a few exercises to try and increase our awareness of how the body is feeling, both inside and outside. So I'd like you to imagine that there's a ball of light, beautiful, beautiful ball of light, and it's sitting right at the very top of the spine where it meets the skull. And as you breathe in, this ball of light is going to roll the whole length of the front of the spine, all the way down on the in-breath, and then rolling along the front of the pelvis, just nudging into the tailbone there. And on the out-breath, that ball of light traveling all the way back along the length of the spine, all the way up. And you're just going to follow that ball of light on the in-breath and on the out-breath. And you may notice that this very exercise has started to just change the breathing a little bit so that it's become a little bit slower and maybe a little bit longer, both the inhale and the exhale. And if you're finding that there's a part of your spine where the ball just seems to zip over, you don't have much of a sense of the ball traveling along that segment at all, this may be a part of the spine where you would do well to increase the awareness. And so what you might want to do is just roll that ball of light just back and forth over that one particular area. So you're going to let go of the breath if you're doing that, so that your breathing can stay nice and slow and relaxed. But just let that ball of light do whatever it needs to do to help bring your awareness to the whole of the length of the spine. And you may even get a sense that this ball of light itself is ironing out any crinkles and creases along the length of your spine. Last one now. And then with appreciation, you can let that ball of light just fall away, dissolve away. And now bring your awareness back into your body without any guidance, and notice where that attention goes. So I mentioned that the emotions that we have emotions that have an impact on the back, as well as posture and habitual movement. And also very much how we use the back has implications for how we can breathe. So that exercise there where we worked with the ball of light, hopefully that will already have woken up a little bit of the diaphragmatic breath. This is where we really focus on using the diaphragm to work the breathing, and we allow all of the accessory muscles up around the upper chest to become very quiet. We're going to do a little bit more there because how the diaphragm moves also has really big effect on what is happening in the low back. So working with what we might call belly breathing, what I want you to do is take a breath in, and you're going to keep breathing in to the belly as if you were filling out a balloon there. But see whether you can get a sense of the roundness of that balloon. So the breath is coming into the belly all the way around. You even feel the sides of your middle back here filling with air as you breathe in. The waist is expanding, as well as the lower part of the belly really ballooning out there. And keep breathing in as long as you can, as much as you can. Your diaphragm is going to have to work really hard to do this in-breath. And you can expect it to feel a little bit like, whoa, why am I having to work so hard here? And then when you're ready, let that breath come out very slowly if you can, so it's nice and controlled. And breathe in again, using that belly breathing. I'm going to invite you to breathe in and breathe in and breathe in and breathe in until you feel that you can't breathe in anymore. And see how that feels. See what's happening for you. It might be that there's a part of your body that doesn't want to move so well. It might be around the left-hand side underneath the ribs here. If you had quite a heavy lunch, you might find that the diaphragm's a little kind of less happy to move in that area. And of course, in order for the diaphragm, and following your own breathing there, letting the exhale happen as it needs, but still working very much with the belly breathing. And as the diaphragm comes down into the belly in order to set up that huge breath, of course, all of the abdominal contents slide and glide around past each other in order to accommodate that diaphragm coming down. So if you've got any digestive issues going on here, they might also reveal themselves. It might be that you have a little bit of a trapped wind, something like that. And the belly is, of course, the front of the back. So anything that's going on inside the belly will have implications for our back as well. So last one now. And hopefully it's got a little bit easier now as you breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, and let that breath go. And let all control of the breath go now. See whether you can let that now come back under the organization of your nervous system so that you're not having to bring your awareness to it there. And notice, how do you feel in your body now? And then if you'd like to move all the props that you can, keep the pillow under your head if you know that you need it. You move all of the props to one side and just let yourself come back into the regular Shavasana. And notice how it feels now. Notice if anything has changed. Notice the contact of your back on the floor. Compare the left leg to the right leg. And on that scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is just absolutely almost comatose, you feel so relaxed, and 10 is 100% effort, where would you put yourself on that scale now? And then let yourself do any movements that feel intuitive to you. And then when you're ready, roll over onto your side. So when the spine has realigned according to the natural intelligence, which is what I've found has happens when you offload the sacrum, it's as good as a treatment. It's as effective and as powerful as a treatment. So when you come into sitting after that, you want to sit up all the way by rolling onto your side and then pushing up through your hands so that you get up very much as if you've just had any other kind of treatment, a massage or mobilization or a manipulation. But you want to be very, very respectful to your spine. You don't want to just suddenly jump up. And then just see how you feel as you're sitting up there now. Again, any movements that come intuitively to you, let yourself work with them. As you gradually bring yourself into sitting. Now I'm going to carry on sitting on the mat here. And even though I would normally use props just for the sake of you being able to see where I'm sitting, I'm not going to use any. And you can sit either on the floor, you can sit cross-legged sitting, or you can sit on a chair. So wherever you feel you would be most comfortable to come into a nice posture. And then I'm going to invite you to take your hands underneath so that you can feel your sitting bones rest on your fingers there. We're just going to look a little bit as we finish off here about sitting posture, because we tend to spend a lot of our day sitting. And if we sit habitually in a posture and we kind of get a little bit stuck in that posture, then we are going to limit the awareness that we can have in our back. And if we are limiting the awareness that we have physically, it's much, much harder to get into the emotional messages that we can find there. So this is what this is all really about. It's about letting go of those habitual postures, letting go of that habitual movement, increasing flexibility in the spine, letting the muscles really relax there, so that we can absolutely get into the messages that the body is telling us, because on the emotional side, because all of the physical side is dealt with. So with your sitting bones resting in your on your fingers there, what I'd like you to do is start to rock the pelvis. So it's as if you're going to do a rocking of the pelvis like this. But guess what? We're going to work where if there was a prize for this, what we want to do is we want to give the prize to the person who has the tiniest, tiniest, tiniest amount of movement, not the biggest. Because what we're trying to do is wake up the real subtleties here. So really gently. Now I'm doing larger movements than if I wanted to win the prize, because I'm demonstrating what I'm doing. But I'm increasing the arch in my back, and now I'm letting myself slump down. So I'm going to come right into the side view there so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm not going to be using my hands there either, so you can just see what I'm doing in my spine there. Now, can you see how far I can go back that way? And I don't have so much availability this way. This is because I am sitting flat on the floor in the cross-legged position, and I don't have that room in my hips in order to be able to do that. So that's why I sit on a wedged block here, which the butterfly is wedge shaped there. Now, if I do that pelvic rock, can you see how much more movement I have there now? So what this means is that with that extra space, I can move in both directions, which means that when I'm sitting still, my body still has a sense of that space in both directions, as against when I'm down here, when I don't have very much room in one way. And even if I'm sitting still and I manage to get into a really good posture, which is much more difficult for me, and probably the same for you, I still have that sense of I'm up against the end of range. So when we sit for a lot of the breathing practices that we're doing, and again, when we want to get into the messages, what is our back telling us? We want to make sure that there's plenty of room for expression there. So sitting on any props that you need in order to get a sense that you have equal movement so that when you rock your pelvis forwards and backwards, you've got equal movement in both directions, and you put whatever props you need underneath your bottom in order to have that, and then let the hands fall away and come back. Now, if you bring the back of the hands right up high towards the groin, and then slide the hands down so they only come to not even really the midpoint of the thigh there, so that my plumb line is not changed. That's the line that goes through my ear, through the shoulder, through the elbow, and through the hip, which tells us that we're in a really nice seated position. And a lot of the time, it actually is even better. Now, this isn't big enough here, but if you have a blanket or a towel that you can put across you there so that you can rest your hands in the towel there. And this will often be a really good position for you to come into so that you can stay for a nice long time and work either with your meditation or with some more exercises where you really start to explore inside the body. So when you're in a nice seated position there, you let your eyes close. And just open out your mouth really wide without moving your head. Just open your mouth really wide and then let the mouth relax. And hopefully now the tongue will also be relaxed in the mouth. And bring your awareness all the way down into the pelvic floor. The root of your body here and the root of the spine. And bringing your awareness again to the breath. Feeling that the belly is so relaxed that the breath can come all the way down into the belly. You may even be able to get a sense of that reciprocal relationship between the diaphragm and the pelvic floor, so that as you breathe in and the diaphragm comes down into the belly, there's a very gentle expansion in the pelvic floor. And on the out breath, as the diaphragm is drawn back up towards the chest, the pelvic floor is drawn into the body. And as you continue to work with your relaxed breathing, I'm going to invite you to think of the first word that comes to mind when you think about your low back. What's the very first word that comes to mind? And then I'm going to invite you to give one word to the greatest challenge that you have in your life right now. See whether you can narrow it down to giving it just one word to describe it. And then if there was something that I could give you right now that would make you feel that your back was supported, that I had my hand on your back, what would that one thing be? And if you can put those however many words you've used there, if you can bring them together into your hands, imagine that they were written on a little piece of paper and you were putting them in your hands there. Cup your hands around them very gently and bring them up to your heart. And hold them in your heart. And make a commitment to your heart that you're going to look at those. You're going to look at what those challenges are, and you're going to look at the one thing that might really help you, and you're going to seek that for yourself. It might be a little thing, it might be a big thing, and it might only be for you to know. But take a conscious breath now into the heart. And as you breathe out, we're going to work with 3 ohms. Now, if you prefer not to make the sound of om, you just want to hum, that's absolutely fine. I appreciate that for some people it feels as if there's a religious context there. There isn't. But if it feels more comfortable for you to hum, that's fine. But we're just working with this vibration here that you can feel inside your body. A breath in. Om. 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 Namaste. There's a lot to cover when we talk about lifestyle prescriptions yoga, and it's quite a tall order to deliver something. I can't see you. I don't know what props you have, and I don't know what your experience, your prior experience of yoga is, and I don't know whether you have any kind of a back problem. But I hope that I've given, whatever I've given you has given you something to think about and has been helpful. And hopefully, especially for those of us who are watching over in Europe and the UK, that it's a nice gentle start to your weekend. So enjoy the weekend, everyone, and I will look forward to seeing you. I think I'm hosting towards the beginning of, or at the beginning of next week, and I look forward to seeing you then.